Hey guys, welcome back to another sports stuff video. Today, we'll be going over my best fits for where I think coaches and NFL teams should meet, right? So what coaches should go to what NFL teams in the NFL offseason after Black Monday. Sorry for getting this video out so late. I really got hit down with a sickness, dude. I was expelling liquid through my mouth for about a day and a half. I literally could not go like an hour without puking. So it was very rough. So I couldn't really talk for more than 10 minutes. I didn't even talk. Like, look, I've been sleeping the last 2 days. I've been awake for maybe 10 hours total the last 2 days. So I'm back. I'm feeling a little bit better. You might be able to hear it in my voice where like I'm still a little under the weather. But I think I'm good enough to record a video. So if you guys do enjoy, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let's get into this video for the best fit for coaches to what team. So obviously we're going over head coaches, and after we're done with the head coaches, we'll be going over what coordinators are going to go with those coaches to these new spots. You guys can be very interested. I went very deep into the stats and the history. Oh, sorry. The history of these coaches to figure out what coordinators are going to go with what coaches. So let's get into it. So obviously, Mike Vrabel, I think, is going to end up back with the Patriots. He was a former coach of the year in 2021. He has a winning record of a .545 record. That's 54-45 over his coaching career. He's proven to be good at getting the best of poor rosters. I really think those Tennessee rosters were very lackluster. That defense that they always had was always like an average unit that Mike Vrabel turned into a top 10, top 12 unit. The offense was always mediocre as well. But again, he's always been able to get the most out of those rosters, make deep playoff runs. And I think Mike Vrabel could be a really good guy to help Drake May develop as a quarterback. I'd be excited to see where this defense can go overall, because I don't think it's a bad building block. I think there's a lot of good pieces on that defense. Keon White, Christian Barmore, Christian Gonzalez. Like, there's a lot of Jabril Peppers. There's a lot of good players on that defense. I think they just need a coach who knows how to put them in good spots, who's proven to make, lackluster rosters perform better than expected. As much as I think Gerard Mayo did get screwed over, and I do think he deserved another year to try and prove that he's worth it. I think Mike Vrabel is the guy that most, obviously the reason they fired Gerard Mayo was because Mike Vrabel was available. I think if there wasn't written in contract by Bill Belichick that Gerard Mayo would have been the successor, I think 100% Mike Vrabel last year would have been hired by the Patriots. But I don't see anyone else but Mike Vrabel getting the head coaching job in New England. I think it's pretty much set in stone, and I wouldn't be shocked if this is the first hire out of the entire cycle. So yeah, Mike Vrabel going to the New England Patriots, absolutely. Next, I'm gonna go Pete Carroll to the Las Vegas Raiders. Listen, I think you guys would be very shocked at my list. I'm going, because every time I do this video, I choose the most sane. If I was the owner, what I would do. I need to stop doing that because I don't have the ego. I don't have the past history with these guys. These are just guys that I've seen on the TV. I've seen them in the locker room. Like, I've seen off of the social media and TV and interviews and articles about them. I don't know them. I don't know the owners. I'm not the owner. So it's going to be different than what I would do. I think Mark Davis is the exact owner with Tom Brady to get Pete Carroll to be the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. He's a Super Bowl winning head coach. He has a winning record of .58, well, that's 181 over 131 win-loss record. He is historically good, but again, at age 73, does he still have it? Does he want to be a head coach for another 5-10 years? Or is this a temporary hire to get the franchise back on the right track, and in 5 years they hire a new head coach? That is also an option, but to me, this seems like a Las Vegas Raiders move, someone who can stabilize the franchise for a couple of years, because I don't think this cycle the Raiders are getting the guy to win a Super Bowl. I don't see it. They're in a division with Harbaugh, Reed, and Peyton. That's a lot of good head coaches and a lot of good quarterbacks. If I'm the Raiders, grab a guy who can be a culture setter, who can bring back happiness to being a Raiders fan, and on top of that, just stabilize the roster and the franchise for multiple seasons. He may only go 7-10, 8-9, 9-8, 10-7, 8-9 over those 5 years. But he'll be a head coach that fans want to cheer for, that fans want to perform well, and that I just think he has proven that he can stabilize a team, right? That even when the Seattle Seahawks with Geno Smith, even at their worst, they were 9-8 with Geno Smith. Pete Carroll is the type of guy to get the most out of another. Again, like I said, the most out of a lackluster roster to help stabilize a team and their culture. I think that's Pete Carroll. I think that's exactly what the Raiders need. I think Pete Carroll's the guy that can do it. So yeah, I see Pete Carroll for the next 4 or 5 years stabilizing the Raiders, so then they can get a successor to Pete Carroll once their roster is a little better, the image of their team is a little better. Because again, firing John Gruden, hiring McDaniels, firing him a year and a half in, hiring Antonio Pierce, firing him 1 year in. That's a bad look. Pete Carroll come in, stabilize the image of the Las Vegas Raiders. I see it 100% happening. I fully believe this will be the hire for the Raiders. Next, we have Aaron Glenn to the New Orleans Saints. One of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. He's also a former player of the Saints, and he was a Sean Payton assistant coach from 2016 to 2020 when he was then hired away by Dan Campbell to Detroit. So he's a former player and a former coach of the franchise. He has interest from all the teams basically they're hiring a coach, but he's being picky. He's turned down interviews for the Patriots. And I wouldn't be shocked if there's other teams that he's going to turn down. But I think this could be a defense that he would fall in love with, right? They have a lot of core pieces I think are really solid, right? Not Tyson Campbell. What's his name? The cornerback. Oh my gosh, it's going to kill me. The cornerback for the Saints. What is his name? New Orleans depth charts. Oh, it's going to kill me if I can't figure out his name. That's why I'm doing this. But their corner... Oh, where is it? Paulson Adebo. Right, Paulson Adebo. Obviously, Clay McKinstry, Alontae Taylor, Tyrann Mathieu, Will Harris, a former Detroit player. Like, it's a really good secondary. Linebackers are okay. Solid defensive line. I see the image of Aaron Glenn loving this defense, and I think it's very possible that that's the selling point of, hey, we have a really good defense. You can make our defense top 10 tomorrow. Now, the main problem is the offense. And that's something that Aaron Glenn, through his other coaching and, through his other coaches he hires and through his culture, can get a better offense. But I think Aaron Glenn, again, former player, former coach for this regime of the Saints, this GM, this roster iteration. He had Carl Granderson. He had Cameron Jordan. He had DeVar. Oh my God, why am I blanking everyone's name? The minute I delete Demario Davis. Like, he had these veteran players in 2020. Now they've added a bunch of young guys to the defense, a bunch of free agents, a bunch of guys who are starting that are really good veterans. I think Aaron Glenn can get the most out of this defense day one. They can help keep this team from bottoming out. And the offense, it's going to need a lot of help. But Aaron Glenn can fix the defense. Because once you get one side of the ball fixed, you can now fix the other side of the ball. Aaron Glenn can fix one side of the ball while they fix the offense. And I think he has the culture mindset to make this team a success. So Aaron Glenn to the Saints, I think, can be set in stone tomorrow. Next, we have Joe Brady going to the Jaguars. Yes, I know it's a little bit unconventional. A lot of people have another coach going here. He'll be brought up later. But I think Joe Brady is going to end up being the number 2 option for the Jaguars. He won a national championship with LSU in 2019. He took over as offensive coordinator when Ken Dorsey was fired. And Bill's offense has skyrocketed since Joe Brady signed on as an OC in Buffalo. Listen. Since he signed on and took over for the offense, not only has Josh Allen looked better, but their run game has looked better. They're getting more play out of the wide receivers and tight ends. He's running a good, fluid offense. Imagine what he can do with a Jacksonville Jaguars offense. With Trevor Lawrence, who is not as good as Josh Allen, but way better weapons. Travis Etienne and Tanks Bigsby. Evan Ingram, I think he retired actually. Did Evan Ingram retire? I think Evan Ingram retired. They're tight end. I'm pretty sure Evan Ingram is still playing. I might be confusing him with the Giants tight end, Darren Waller, who retired. I think Evan Ingram is still playing. Don't quote me. Maybe it's Luke Strange as their starter. But Brian Thomas Jr., Christian Kirk, Parker Washington, like Gabe Davis. They have so many wide receiver talents, solid running backs, okay offensive line. I think Joe Brady can come in, make that a very good unit in a very weak AFC South. It is wide open. The Texans, as good as they are still a young team developing. Joe Brady can come in and make the Jaguars offensively competitive, and if they bring in a good defensive coordinator and a good defense, I think the Jaguars can help compete the AFC South to where it's them and the Texans for the next couple of years. So Joe Brady, the Jaguars, I think that's also another solid hire, but I think it'd be their number 2 option to the guy that they don't sign, who again will be brought up later. Next, we have Matt Nagy to the New York Jets. I think Matt Nagy got dealt a really bad hand. He was coach of the year in 2018, his very first year as a head coach. He was a solid head coach, right? He made the playoffs 2 times with Mitchell Trubisky. He helped the Chiefs offense win multiple Super Bowls. And it's a solid environment for Matt Nagy, right? You'd have Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, an okay offensive line, okay tight ends, a quarterback question mark, yes. But technically it is still Aaron Rodgers next year. As you know, as far as we know, it's Aaron Rodgers. He hasn't retired yet. An okay defense. Like, I think it's a solid environment for Matt Nagy to build upon, right? I think he got dealt a really crappy hand with the Chicago Bears. A really bad ownership, really bad GM who also got fired with them. But they did pretty solid with the team they were handed, right? Again, 2 times the Bears made the playoffs with Matt Nagy. The last time they made the playoffs, 2010. In two of his 4 years, they made the playoffs. Before that, it was 8 years. And yet again, they're on another playoff drought 5 years later. I think Matt Nagy definitely deserves a chance to retry being a head coach, right? Matt Nagy, I believe they're also hiring a new GM. Yes, they're hiring a new GM because Joe Douglas got fired. So new GM, new head coach. Finally, Matt Nagy can come in with a GM and they can make a vision for a team for the future. Because again, like I've been saying with the Bears all offseason, they keep doing where they keep the GM for a head coach, fire the head coach after 1 year of the GM, and then new head coach, new GM, don't have a line vision. They fire the GM. All right, new GM, head coach. They fire the head coach 1 year into the GM. The GM and head coach structure is never aligned. It's always different regimes. So I think Matt Nagy can finally come in with a new GM and build an aligned vision for the Jets. Because I think he's a pretty solid offensive play caller. I don't think he's an awful coach. I really don't. I think the New York Jets have a good foundation to build upon with Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, solid offense in general. Defense has a lot of good young pieces and good veterans playing that, again, just got on a really bad tread, have a really bad culture right now. I think Matt Nagy can come in, help that culture, and help this team get better in that AFC East, which overall is pretty wide open, right? The Dolphins are a question mark. The Patriots are a question mark. The Bills are owning the AFC East right now. But the Jets have the team to compete with the Bills a little bit. You know what I mean? I think Matt Nagy can do that. Finally, I do have Cliff Kingsbury going to the Chicago Bears. Yes, yes, yes. Keep your comments to yourselves for a minute. I will get to the glaring elephant in the room. Don't worry. Cliff Kingsbury to the Bears. He has a negative winning percentage of .43 in the NFL. He's 0-1 as a head coach in the playoffs. He does struggle late in the regular season, but I think the 2-3 year break he took from coaching was very good for him, because in the 2 or 3 years he took off from head coaching, he has really changed his outlook on coaching, right? He took a year off, went to coach in the college football at USC, where he coached Caleb Williams to a Heisman award, and then goes into Washington after USC and has helped Jay Daniels more than likely win Offensive Rookie of the Year, right? Like, he has completely revived his career, right? So I think there's a very high chance that Caleb Williams goes to Ryan Poles and say, hey, I know Cliff Kingsbury. I know I can succeed in his system. I want Cliff as my head coach. And I think I could pull a lot of weight with Ryan Poles. Again, Cliff Kingsbury coached Caleb Williams in his Heisman season, and he revived his career in Washington, helped Jay Daniels more than likely win Offensive Rookie of the Year, and has a really good offense, right? Like, it didn't fall off this year. It did not fall off late in the season. We're seeing that it's been able to be steady the entire year, and I think this is exactly what Caleb Williams needs, is a coach who knows him, knows how he plays, and can help him succeed. So yes, while the elephant in the room is not my choice, I think Cliff Kingsbury ends up being the choice, because Ryan Poles has openly said, well, I guess it's been openly reported, that Ryan Poles is not taking Ben Johnson because he wants too much roster control. And Cliff Kingsbury, I think, just wants another head coaching job. So, yes, obviously, guys returning to their team. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, Ben Johnson. I see him waiting another year, right? I don't think any team in this cycle, not that they have a bad foundation, but I think he wants too much roster control. And I don't think any team in the hiring cycle right now would give him the roster control that he wants. Also, I think on top of that, even if he does want to go to a team this year, I think he's gonna get a bag to stay in Detroit, right? I don't think there's a single chance in hell that Detroit's gonna let him walk. I think Aaron Glenn has a little bit more of a chance to walk because he's a little older. He's been around the NFL a little longer as a coordinator and has more history in the NFL. Ben Johnson, this is his first coordinating job, right? I think it's a very high chance that Aaron Glenn goes to ownership, says, no, I don't want to stay. I want to take my chance as a head coach. You can always come back as a DC. But I think Ben Johnson, these that go to ownership say, I would like to leave, and they're going to say, nah, we'll pay you even more money. And Ben Johnson ends up staying for a massive amount of money by the Detroit Lions. So that's what I think is going to happen with Ben Johnson. Liam Cohn, I just don't see him getting an offer after 1 year of NFL success. People are going to bring up Dave Canales. The thing is, Dave Canales, we saw success in Seattle, right? He revived Geno Smith's career, made him win Comeback Player of the Year. Goes to Tampa. Baker Mayfield rebounds after a awful year of his career. Rebounds, could have won Comeback Player of the Year, but had a massive successful season, won the division, had an amazing offense. Liam Cohn has only had 1 year of that. If he has another year of this exact same success, he'll be a head coach next year. But I want to see him do it again, and he will get that chance. Brian Flores, I think he's going to be very picky. Unfortunately, it is very known that minority head coaches get one chance in the NFL, and they're done as a head coach. Brian Flores is going to be one of the exceptions to that rule, because for whatever reason, owners do not like minority head coaches getting multiple chances. I think that's a very fair thing to say, right? I think that's something that's not crazy to say either. Minority head coaches get less chances for multiple times to be a head coach. Look at it historically. That's 100% true, 100% facts. So Brian Flores, he has revived his career in Minnesota. I think he's going to be very picky and wait for the right team at the right time for him to take that second chance. Because again, he's not going to get a third chance. He's just not. He's not going to get a third chance. Same with Vance Joseph. I don't think he's personally ready for another head coaching gig. I think he could get another gig. Again, I think he, as a defensive coordinator, is proving that he should be a head coach again. But I want to see another year of his success, right? 1 more year, and I think Vance Joseph can prove me correct that he'll be ready next year. Bobby Slowick, he had a massive fall off this year. Yes, the O-line play declined, and it took a massive step back. So that is the stem of the issue. But still, I think he's going back to the Texans. And we're going to see another year of him, CJ Stroud, a rebuilt offensive line. I just see that's what's going to happen with Houston. I don't see him getting a head coaching job this year. And then for Todd Monken, I just don't see him as a head coach. I see him more as an offensive coordinator. I don't think he has what it takes to be a head coach in the NFL. Nothing against him. I think he'll be a offensive coordinator as long as he wants. I don't see him being a head coach. But yeah, so now let's get into my favorite part of this video, is building the staffs for these guys. So as you can see, I obviously got all the head coaches, OCs, DCs, and special team coaches. And where I think the head coaches that I hired, who they would hire at offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, special teams. So starting off with Mike Vrabel at head coach, obviously. Tommy Rees, offensive coordinator, currently the tight ends coach for the Cleveland Browns, did interview for the OC of the Browns. But I think the reason that we haven't hired him yet as the OC is that he said, I want to know if Mike Vrabel gets that Patriots job, because Tommy Rees, again, has Patriots connections. So does Bubba Ventrone. I think they're waiting to see if the Patriots job goes to Mike Vrabel, because Mike Vrabel, Bubba Ventrone, who's also special teams coordinator for the Cleveland Browns, all have connections to the Patriots and to Alabama, and all three of them are very good friends. I think where Mike Vrabel goes, Tommy Rees and Bubba Ventrone will eventually go. So that's why I'm going to say with Bubba Ventrone and Tommy Rees, the Browns will even let them go and say, you know what? Have fun, right? Tommy Rees, they don't need to give permission because he's getting a promotion. But Bubba Ventrone, I think they say, Bubba, don't even worry about it. You can go. And Shane Bowen, he was Mike Vrabel's former DC. I believe he's currently the DC or the linebackers coach somewhere. But I think he gets a promotion and the assistant head coaching job because of the connections they have in the past. For the Raiders, again, Pete Carroll as a head coach. Shane Waldron, now that he's been fired from the Chicago Bears, I think he signs on with Pete Carroll wherever he goes. Gus Bradley, just fired from the Indianapolis Colts, former Pete Carroll defensive coordinator. I think he goes back to the Raiders. Funny enough, that was the Raiders DC a few years ago where they had mediocre success. I think he signs back on with the Raiders. And Larry Izzo, the special teams / assistant head coach. I say Larry Izzo because he was Pete's special teams coordinator during the best years of the Seattle Seahawks under Pete Carroll's reign. Ranking, like their stats and their rankings in the NFL. Larry Izzo coached the best unit. But currently, he is the special teams coordinator for the Commanders. So I think you have to give him that assistant head coaching gig. So you can actually do that, right? Because you can't get a lateral promotion. It has to come with a promotion. So then Pete Carroll goes, Larry Izzo, come to me with the Raiders. I'll give you the assistant head coaching job. Boom. You can now legally do that. The Saints, Aaron Glenn, head coach, obviously. Scotty Montgomery, he's currently the run game coordinator for the Detroit offense. They have an elite run game. That makes a lot of sense to me. And then Terrell Williams, the defensive coordinator, he's currently the run game coordinator for the defense of the Lions, who have the best run defense in the NFL. And he's also the D-line coach. And that D-line in Detroit is massively overperforming expectation with that lackluster talent. And I think Terrell Williams and Aaron Glenn, because Aaron Glenn is such a good run defending coach and Terrell Williams is the run game coordinator, I think Terrell Williams will go with Aaron Glenn. And then Jet Modkins, again, assistant special teams coach with the Lions. I think he just takes him with them because, I mean, the Lions have had multiple All-Pros and Pro Bowlers in the special teams unit this year. So I think, again, Jet Modkins just goes with Aaron Glenn wherever he goes. So it's all Lions guys with him, but I could see Saints guys sticking around with Aaron Glenn because, again, he knows these guys. All the guys on offense and all the guys on defense that are coaches, Aaron Glenn knows. So I think it's a good chance that maybe they don't come with him and he just keeps guys that are with the Saints. But I'm saying clear house, bring new guys over who have seen success in the NFL. The Jaguars, Joe Brady is the head coach. James Craig is the offensive coordinator. He was the run game coordinator and O-line coach for the 2019 LSU team that, obviously Joe Brady won a championship with. He's currently the Raiders O-line coach. They're a fine unit. I think it's more about the 2019 year. Joe Brady wants to surround himself with veteran talent. James Craig is like 50 years old and he's been coaching for nearly 20 years. I think Joe Brady easily takes James Craig with him as OC. Marcus West is the DC. Let me spend notes. Marcus West is currently the Bills defensive line coach who helped develop talent like Gregory Rousseau, getting the most out of a 35-year-old Von Miller, right? Like, that defensive line has always been pretty solid. Marcus West is the reason. I think he takes Marcus West with him. And Corey Harkey is the assistant special teams coach for Buffalo. Again, that's what usually happens is when guys leave a team, they take the assistant head coach, the assistant special team coordinator, the assistant offensive coordinator, the assistant DC with them. So I think Corey Harkey, Jet Modkins, they're kind of like that, right? They're the guys that get promoted with the head coach that is going somewhere. Next, we have Matt Nagy in New York. Matt Nagy, obviously the head coach. I then have Dave Ragone as the offensive coordinator for the Jets. Ragone was the only hire from the John Fox era of Chicago that Matt Nagy kept in Chicago. Not only did he stay with Matt Nagy his entire tenure, but he even got a promotion from quarterbacks coach to pass game coordinator. So I think it is very likely that Dave Ragone would go with Matt Nagy wherever he goes and get the OC job. He is currently the quarterbacks coach in Los Angeles with the Rams. So I could definitely see Matt Nagy bring him on as the offensive coordinator wherever he goes. Now that he's had a passing game coordinator job and quarterback coaching job in multiple teams and has seen success in multiple teams. Vic Fangio, that one's a little harder to kind of work my way around. It's a little bit of a stretch. He wanted to be in Philadelphia, right? I remember last year, Vic Fangio signed on with the Dolphins to be a consultant, and then he asked to get released by the Dolphins so he could sign with the Eagles. Because he apparently grew up in Philadelphia. So Vic Fangio, a little harder to pull away from the Philadelphia Eagles, but I think if you offer him assistant head coach, it might work. Maybe pay him a little bit more money. But if you don't go with Vic Fangio, I think a good backup is Brandon Staley, right? Brandon Staley, same thing, got a lot of his starting work with Matt Nagy in Kansas City. He brought him over to Chicago. So I think Brandon Staley is a very solid option to be the defensive coordinator for the Jets. He's currently an assistant coach with the 49ers. And Chris Tabor, the special teams coach, Chris Tabor was fired by the Panthers when Frank Reich got fired. So he's currently a free agent. No worries about, trying to get him an assistant title to get him anywhere. But again, another thing about Brandon Staley, he was a Fox hire. Sorry, he was a John Fox hire that he kept for defense. He only left Chicago to follow Vic Fangio when he went to Denver. So I think Brandon Staley is very easily, you could work around. Instead of Vic Fangio, you keep Brandon Staley as DC. Then for the Bears, Cliff Kingsbury, head coach. Then David Rye, he's currently the tight ends coach for the Commanders, but he was also Cliff Kingsbury's wide receiver coach in Arizona. So he has followed him from Arizona to Washington. So he's obviously one of Cliff's guys. I think it's very obvious that he likes him. I think it definitely see him get promoted to a higher job in the future if Cliff Kingsbury gets a head coaching job. He's one of his, he's one of his disciples. David Rye absolutely would follow him wherever he goes. Then Greg Williams, he served as a cornerback coach in Arizona. He's been the passing game coordinator in other spots, a linebacker coach, again another DB coach job. I could see him definitely getting a defensive coordinator job after coaching this good young core in Los Angeles with the Rams. So not only would Cliff Kingsbury keep David Rye, he'd also get back Greg Williams, who he had in Arizona. And then Jeff Rodgers, this is funny enough, I did not know this. Jeff Rodgers, he's a special teams coordinator for the Cardinals right now. But he's been the special teams coordinator for 8 seasons. He has outlasted 3 head coaches and multiple GMs. He must be a great dude and coach, because who outlasts 3 coaches and multiple GMs? That is insanity. So Cliff Kingsbury didn't fire Jeff Rodgers when he was first there. I don't think he'd fire him again, because guess what? What's his name? So I actually messed this up. Jeff Rodgers has to get special teams / assistant head coach, because I think he had to pull Jeff Rodgers out of Arizona and put him in Chicago, because Cairo Santos, he's fine, but I think he'd definitely get better. So if I'm Cliff Kingsbury, I'm going to Jeff Rodgers. I'm grabbing Jeff Rodgers out of Arizona, who has outlasted 3 head coaches and multiple GMs, and I'm plopping him in Chicago. Because if I'm Cliff Kingsbury, this is my second chance. I'm not going to get another chance after this. I want to get the best guys that I know can succeed. So Jeff Rodgers, you've been in Arizona for that long. Yeah, you're coming with me. You're coming with me. But yeah, this is my idea, and what I predict will be the head coaching hires and also their coaching staff. So if you guys enjoy, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Again, this is just predictions. I will probably get this all wrong. Maybe Liam Cohen and Ben Johnson do take jobs somewhere, which means 2 of these guys won't get a job. But if you guys enjoy, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Peace and bye.